So, Starlight Legacy came out earlier this year, and I was given a copy by the developer to play. Right off the bat, this took me like 8 hours to beat. I was trying to go through it a little bit quickly, so yeah, you can expect about that long of a playthrough. When you start the game, you get a little bit of a rundown of the world's backstory. It is not too important for review purposes, but this really does make it feel like a retro RPG. You can see in the background too, it is a limited 3D render of the world. This is super cool. Like look, I am a zoomer. I haven't played many RPGs that are older than Final Fantasy X, but I know that this is a super accurate portrayal of 3D overworlds from back then. After that, you get to name your characters. I didn't name them except for the girl because, yeah. You start with Ignis, who is just at home with his mom, and she tells him to go get a job. Actually hilarious. This game has a mix of humor and seriousness, at least I think. I don't actually know how much of it you're supposed to take seriously, because of stuff like the Evil Tree. You know, Evil Tree, recurring character, host of Evil Tree Quiz Time. Frida here also tells the group, I have a boyfriend, and Terrell's response is, I don't remember asking. And also, look, verbal spoiler, the final boss says that, I will have my own Starlight Legacy. And one of your party members goes, that doesn't even make any sense. It's funny though. It's really funny. It does kind of get in its own way sometimes though, kind of like how people criticize Marvel movies nowadays, but I actually really like that kind of humor. Gameplay-wise though, it's pretty neat. It doesn't hold your hand, it kind of throws you into things, but a lot of what's there is very straightforward. You attack, use spells, defend, use an item, all that. But, 2 extra things. You have a rage mode, where if you get beaten up enough, you get 100% crit rate for a while. Then there's your skills, which are earned individually and equipped per character. Ignis starts with Spin, Terrell starts with Throw, and Frida starts with Summon. Summon is the best one throughout the entirety of the game. You can only bring 4 spells into battle on each character, but Summon lets you use enemies to attack, and they can use, like, any spell. But hey, Spin is pretty awesome. Everyone learns new skills at the same rate, and it's usually the same ones, except for a few situations. Also, one thing to note about the game, the 3 different characters, they do have different, like, stat layouts, and a fun thing about them is that the green-haired girl is not the healer of your party. She is actually, like, the dedicated magic user. She doesn't have to be, but she's built that way. And the dedicated healer is actually Terrell, which I just find that to be neat. Oh yeah, and speaking of equipping stuff like your skills, you don't have a weapon slot and a shield slot in this game. You have hand 1 and hand 2. You know what that means? Double swords, double shields. Heck yeah, I love hyper-focusing on a stat. The general story here is a real throwback to the old days of RPGs, and by that I mean it is super political. You go out to all these different areas of the kingdom, made of united subsects. They aren't exactly united though. The kingdom, formerly called Lusoria, was subjugated. Travel has been restricted to keep them from immigrating to other places, and they have been banned from learning magic altogether. Wow, this is textbook oppression, and is done very directly, better than a lot of games where they either try to be too subtle with their message, or are too obvious while also lacking the serious weight of the reality. The story revolves around that a lot though, and I don't want to reveal the whole thing, so moving on. You might be able to tell while walking around or just looking at some of the art, but this is surprisingly Pokemon inspired. You go to each area to get stuff similar to Pokemon items that destroy rocks, let you go over water, fast travel, etc. There's these one-way ledges, that is super Pokemon-y, the map, the character art, and even some of the sound effects. And it doesn't influence combat, which is the surprising part of this all. Although maybe that's why you can only have 4 spells at a time. A complaint that I saw in other reviews was that the enemy encounters were very samey, but that was like a real thing from back then. Although it's not necessarily positive, It is very realistic if that's what you want to portray. Also, there are cool enemies that come up as you progress throughout the game. Some enemies do get reused a bit too much, these birds specifically, but eh. Finally, there's a lot of accessibility and quality of life features. You can make the controls be on the left-hand side of the controller, the right-hand side, or just use classic menuing. You can change the rate at which you get EXP, which is fun since this is a single-player game, so it doesn't really matter. Enemy encounters can be turned off, so you don't have to deal with it while walking around. I used this sometimes when I died, and just wanted to get back somewhere, alongside a skill that lets you run away from battle. Of course, I only had to run when I turned enemy encounters back on, but sometimes you just want to get a bit of EXP and not deal with certain types of enemies, so yeah. There are flaws in this game, such as gameplay oversights, which I will mention very soon, and maybe some people don't like the particular kind of writing, but some of these flaws are pretty fun. I did the endgame with pure cheese. You wanna know how? There's a spell called Physical Down. Anyone can learn any spell, so I taught this to my person who had the worst magic stat in the party. What this does is it makes the target's physical attacks just do 1 damage. Sure, that sounds crazy powerful, but there's enemies that can do that too, and any decently strong enemy would of course have magic attacks. There's a magic barrier. The magic barrier blocks every magic attack and status move that comes at you, and there is a summon that just puts it on your entire team. So yeah, the game got a lot easier when I did that, but you could choose to not do that, or maybe you won't figure it out if you play by yourself. And hey, sometimes it was a little difficult to set up, especially when there was like a ton of enemies all at once. You know, it wasn't like a cure-all solution, except for the fact that it kind of was. The game was fun though, and again, I got plenty of good hours out of it. There was even a little after-credits scene, hinting at a new game in the future, possibly. But hey, if you want to see more, then you can try out the game for yourself. I'll put a link in the description. Or you can just go and watch another review if this didn't convince you one way or the other. With all that said and done though, thank you to everybody for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye! Seriously though, did they just hate the trees from Pokemon or something?